Hey everyone, you probably recognize me by now. I'm Ethan. Last time, I left you at the point where Jody and I escaped from our neighbor's place. But before I continue the story, remember, subscribe to the channel to show me your support. As soon as we got out of there, Gabe and Justin followed after us. Thankfully, we were able to get to our car on time and drive away to the agency. "We have to hurry and catch them red-handed," Jody said on the way, "or else they'll run away." "It won't be easy to run away," I replied. "They have the whole setup in their room. They'll at least have to take that down first. We have some time on our hands. By the way, did you call the agency?" Jody nodded. "We'll meet them somewhere in the middle." We met with the men from the agency 10 minutes later. They were all going towards Justin's house. After getting some weapons from them, Jody and I turned around and followed the men. When we reached Justin's house and rang the doorbell, no one answered for 5 minutes. "We should just barge in," I suggested. "They're not going to let us in willingly." Everyone agreed, and we were about to kick the door open, when suddenly Justin appeared in front of us. "Oh, looks like I have guests again," he smiled. "Sorry for the inconvenience. I went out for a bit." Then he turned to me. "Ethan, you should have told me you were going to bring over more friends." "Cut the crap," Jody said. "We're here to arrest you." Justin gasped. "What? Arrest me? What did I do? Did I offend you in some way? The two of you just left in the middle of dinner. I tried to ask you what was wrong, but you just ran away." Wow. Even his acting was bad. I scoffed. "Please, we were not in the middle of any dinner. You had us captive in your basement. And your freaky wife, or should I say your brother, was threatening us." "Gosh, what are you talking about, Ethan?" He laughed. "You watch a lot of movies, don't you? Your imagination is a bit wild." "Let us search your house," one of the agency men said to him. "Either let us in willingly, or we can always find other ways." "I seriously don't know what I did wrong, but fine, if searching this place will satisfy you, then do it." Justin gestured for us to get inside. I went straight towards the computer room upstairs and asked everyone to follow me. As soon as I opened the room, I was frozen to my spot. The place, which was full of devices earlier, was now something else entirely. All those computers and machines had been replaced with toys. Yes, literally, toys. "What the hell?" Jody exclaimed, turning to Justin. "What did you do to this place?" "What do you mean?" Justin asked innocently. "I'm preparing this room for my kid." "You have a kid?" I asked in disbelief. "No, but I will have one soon," he replied. "My wife is pregnant." "Why are you pretending like you don't already know? We had this conversation over dinner. Weren't you paying attention?" This jerk. Just how far was he willing to go to fool everyone? "Dude, please. Your wife isn't even a woman," Jody said. "She removed his wig right in front of our eyes. We know that his name is Gabe and that he's your brother. Your lies aren't going to work on us." "We can't do anything unless we have some kind of proof," the agency men said. "And this place seems normal right now." "Then search his wife," I said. "He can't change the fact that Gabe is a man. Justin, call your wife here." "Huh? But she's not here right now." "What do you mean?" Jody frowned. "We locked him in the basement when we escaped." "I don't know what you're talking about, but my wife Glenda is with her mother right now, in a different country. Since she's pregnant, she'll live in her mother's care for a few days." "What the actual hell? You sent him away, didn't you?" I exclaimed in shock. Justin shrugged. "Yeah, I sent her away to her mother. Have you got a problem with that?" This guy was unbelievable. How did he manage to hide all the evidence so fast? I had seriously underestimated him yet again. I searched the rest of his house in hopes of finding something, but it was useless. Even the basement had been cleared up. How did he do it? The men from the agency left, since there was no basis to arrest Justin, and Gabe was MIA. Jody and I went back to our house. "First of all, I'm really sorry, Ethan," Jody started. "I swear what happened back there was a mistake. I'm not against you. This mission is as important to me as it is to you, and I would never do anything to ruin it on purpose. Also, now I feel like everything that happened is my fault. Everything would have been all right if I'd been a bit more careful. I'm sorry." I sighed. "I guess we're even, huh? I got you arrested by mistake, and you got us captured. Let's just forget it and move on." She nodded. "But what are we going to do now? Justin has erased every trace of his operation." "I'm thinking. Hopefully we could come up with a solid plan soon enough," I replied. The next morning, we were graced with the presence of none other than Justin Everett. My hand automatically went to my weapon when I saw him standing in the front door. Jody gave him a disgusted look. "What do you want?" "Why are you so rude? I'm here to make amends," he smirked. Not this drama again. Why was he here? "I'm sorry for causing any kind of misunderstanding or confusion," he continued. "I'm really not who you think I am. I just panicked yesterday because you guys were so suspicious of me." "That doesn't make any sense," Jody said. "Please accept this." He handed a bag of cookies to Jody. "I made them myself. I hope you like it." Did this guy have a screw loose? What was going on? "Where is Gabe?" I asked. "Do you mean my wife, Glenda?" Justin countered with an innocent look on his face. "As I told you, she's with her mother right now. Also," he leaned in to whisper, "she runs her mouth a bit too much, doesn't she? I heard about everything she told you. It was risky to keep her around, you see." I knew it. He sent Gabe away because Gabe had divulged all the details about their plan. I could only hope that Gabe was still alive. Actually, why did I care? I needed Gabe only to prove Justin was part of a very dangerous operation, but I'd lost that opportunity. After Justin left, I turned to face Jody. My eyes widened when I saw her eating the cookies that Justin had given her. "What the? Are you crazy? Spit that out!" I yelled. She gave me a confused look. I made her spit out the cookie, and she started coughing. After handing her a glass of water, I grabbed the bag of cookies and tossed them in the garbage. "I knew that you were an idiot, but how could you be so careless?" I scolded her. "Those cookies are laced with poison. I almost had a heart attack when I saw you eating them." "Well, technically, I didn't eat them. You caught me in time," she said. "And thank you for saving my life, I guess." I shook my head. "What were you even thinking?" "I was thinking about a lot of things, and I ate the cookie absent-mindedly," she admitted sheepishly. "Don't worry, I won't die this easily." Everything was okay, but I was confused about one thing. Since when did I care about Jody so much? I mean, sure, she was my mission partner and all, but I really hated her from the beginning. This was a marriage of convenience that neither of us wanted. So why did the thought of her getting hurt make me tremble? And she was so silly and just doing things that get us into trouble. I hated those kind of people. But, then again, she does have her strengths too. Seriously, I had never felt so conflicted in my life before. I had always been busy with my job and never had time for dating and stuff like that, but why did Jody make me want to do things I'd never done before? This wasn't good. And she would tease me endlessly if I confessed my feelings to her. I was sure that I liked her now, but what about her? She wasn't really fond of me earlier, and I don't think I'd done much to change her feelings. It would just be better for me to get over those feelings and say goodbye after the mission was over. "Oh, Ethan, she suddenly said, breaking my thoughts. "We need to move. This house isn't safe anymore. I've already arranged to rent a place. Let's prepare to move and think of a plan to catch Justin and his team red-handed." Yeah, this was a professional relationship. I couldn't let my feelings get in the way. Hey there, it's Ethan again. In the last part of my story, I told you about how our plans to arrest Justin failed. He was able to hide all the evidence and send away his companion. Meanwhile, I started coming to terms with my feelings for Jody, though I'm not ready to tell her yet. I feel like Jody only thinks of our relationship as a professional one. Apart from this, Jody and I moved to a new place because it wasn't safe to live near Justin anymore. Before I tell you the rest of the story, remember, you gotta subscribe to the channel and help show me your support. Right after the day Jody and I moved to a new place, we got a call from the agency. It was bad news. We'd been kicked off the mission. "Why?" I exclaimed over the phone. "We've been working on this op since the very beginning. You can't just order us to stop." "Well, you clearly aren't competent," my boss replied. "I gave you a lot of time already. You couldn't even get enough evidence against them. First of all, you made the mistake and didn't even inform me about the mission," I reminded him. "I wasted my time investigating Jody. Barely 5 days had passed after that incident. What do you mean you gave us time? Come on, please, give us a second chance." "Sorry, we can't," he said, and hung up. Well, it looked like there wasn't much I could do. Now I have to go against orders and complete the mission anyway. Jody was really upset when I told her about what happened. Technically, we did mess up and let them get away, but they can still give us a second chance. We have a lot of time before Christmas Eve, Jody said. "I know. I'm thinking of following the investigation myself. The agency won't support us anymore till we show them some progress," I told her. "By the way, you don't have to help me with this. You're free to do as you wish." Jody glanced at me with accusing eyes. "Okay, wow. You should have just directly said you want me gone. I know that I haven't done a good job and have slowed you down, but it's really, what are you talking about?" I cut in. "I just thought that you would want to leave now. After all, it's a chance to get out of this unwanted marriage. And things are only going to get riskier from here on in." "Risky or not, I want to play my part in this mission," she said with determination. "Don't worry about me. I'll do my best not to mess up this time." I nodded. "As you wish. Oh, by the way, I might have some good news. I saw an ad in the newspaper this morning. Guess what it was?" "Something related to Justin?" I asked. She smiled. "Yes, he's looking for a maid and a driver." "Whoa, really?" I sat up straight. What a funny coincidence that he would need that right when we need a way to infiltrate his house. Jody nodded. "Yeah, I guess Gabe used to help him with all that kind of work. He needs to focus on his operation after all. And this gives us an opportunity." "You're right, but how are we going to do this? He already knows our faces, and there's no way he's going to let us in," I said. "I do have an idea. I'm not sure if you're going to like it, though," Jody said nervously. I frowned. "What is it?" "As long as we get to complete the mission, I'm ready to do anything." I'd expected something really dangerous, but what Jody told me was downright ridiculous. "You can pretend to be a woman and become his maid, while I pretend to be a man and become his driver," she said. "He won't recognize either of us in those kind of disguises. We just have to do a good job at doing our makeup and changing our voices." Initially, I was against the idea. I thought that we could find a better way, but I was wrong. And with no support from the agency, we were on our own. And this was really the best we could do. So, after much debate and contemplation, I decided to agree with Jody's idea. The next day, we stood in front of Justin's house in our new disguises. When Justin saw us, he took his sweet time to scrutinize our bodies from head to toe. It was the most nerve-wracking thing ever, but thankfully Jody and I were prepared. We practiced everything beforehand so we didn't screw it up at the crucial moments like this. "I want to observe your work first," Justin said finally. "If I feel like you're worthy of the job, I'll keep you. Or else," he trailed off with a sinister smile. Or else what? What did he mean? It's official. He's crazy. I glanced at Jody and she nodded. "Sure. So should we start today?" Jody asked Justin. He nodded and invited us into his house. "I don't have many spare rooms, so the two of you will have to share a room," he said on the way. "If you don't like that, you're welcome to live in the basement." "No, that's fine. I'll take the couch," Jody said. I sighed. Justin was as difficult as ever. Impressing him was going to be one hell of a job. He started ordering us around. Technically, I was supposed to be a maid, but he made me slave around and do all the odd jobs around the house. And Jody told me that apart from driving, she had become his personal delivery man, and also his gardener. The only time we could talk freely and be ourselves was at nighttime when we were in our room. Of course, we had checked the room for cameras and other hidden devices. "Gabe must be happy to have gotten away from here," Jody sighed, sitting on the bed. I agree. This place is a hellhole. Justin wanted slaves, not a maid or a driver. I wonder how Gabe put up with him. They're really passionate about this operation, I guess. Don't you remember how excited Gabe was when he was revealing everything? Jody laughed. I don't know if I should call him stupid or impressive. I shook my head with a smile. Anyway, did you learn anything new? Well, everything Justin does is shady, to be honest, she replied. But so far, he only visits a hospital on a daily basis. When I tried to ask him more, he started yelling at me. Wait, you said hospital? I asked. Remember how Gabe told us that they were planning to bring down all the power grids and disable the machines in the hospital? This will lead to many deaths. Do you think his visit is connected to that plan? Could be. But why does he only visit one particular hospital? She mused. Maybe he doesn't want to arouse suspicion, I replied. In any case, we should warn the authorities so they can take all the preventative measures. Jody shook her head. Who will believe us? Right. We need evidence first, I said. Let's keep an eye on him and record all his suspicious activities and conversations. That should be enough to convince the agency. The next day, Justin told us he was impressed with our work. I'll hire you permanently now, he said. But there are some ground rules that the two of you should follow at all times. Stay out of my business and do whatever I ask of you without any questions. Also, what happens inside this house remains here. If you ever divulge your word to anyone else, the consequences won't be good. Did he usually threaten his workers like this? Oh wait, he never actually had a worker. His brother used to do this job. I'm guessing he doesn't know that he's not allowed to threaten us. Oh well, as long as he doesn't suspect us, everything's tolerable. Jody and I kept up the pretense of doing our job diligently while spying on him. The computer room was out of bounds, but there were fixed timings when Justin used to leave the house. After following his routine for a few days, I made an elaborate plan to enter the computer room. After Justin left with Jody, I went inside the room, making sure not to leave any fingerprints. It took me about half an hour to crack the password on his devices, but when it was finally done, I sent all the files and info to my agency. It was also through those files I got to know a very valuable piece of information. Justin's leader, Samuel, and his team from all around the world are going to arrive at his place the 24th of December. They were going to have a meeting right before the day of the attack. This was both good and bad for us. I mean, we could catch all of them together and end it all at once, but the stakes are really high this time. They're all going to be armed, and Jody and I would be far outnumbered. I still wasn't sure if the agency would be willing to help us out. We had jumped into this on our own, but we couldn't back out now. Well, it was time to form a very detailed plan to take down Justin, Samuel, and their whole team without getting hurt in the process. Hi, I'm Ethan, and I'm back with the last part of my story. In the previous video, I told you about how Jody and I switched genders and got into Justin's home as his driver and maid, respectively. I sent whatever proof I could find to my agency, but didn't get any kind of response back from them. Now, before I continue the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to support me. After Jody and Justin returned, I went back to the kitchen and resumed my duties. Later that night, I told Jody that I'd sent some photos to the agency. "And they still haven't contacted you?" she asked in disbelief. I shook my head. Nope. I'm starting to think that they don't really care what happens to us. Of course they don't, Jody sighed. We're not part of this mission anymore. I'm just worried that if by chance we get caught again, then there will be no hope. Still, it's not like we can go back now, I said. The meeting is scheduled for the 24th. There's only a few days left. We can't turn back after coming this far. Jody nodded in agreement. For the next few days, we did our job normally while keeping an eye on Justin. There was no new progress. Finally, the day of the meeting arrived. About 20 people from Justin's team came that day. Their leader, Samuel, was present too. Jody was instructed to stay outside the house, and my job was to bring snacks and water to the guests from time to time. Good for me, because this is the only way to get inside the meeting room and overhear their conversation. The first time I went inside, everyone regarded me as if I was some sort of criminal. Justin told them just to ignore me, and they started talking in their code language. I left the room and stood outside their door in order to record everything. Only my agency could decipher their language, so I sent the recording to them. After about an hour, I came back with more snacks, and this time, Samuel started interrogating me. He asked me questions about my family, my background, things like that. It was clear that he was suspicious. Now, thankfully for me, he didn't probe too much. Justin told me to get out. I stood outside the door and held my breath. Now, they were talking about the most important part of the plan. I started recording and kept sending the files to the agency every 5 minutes. Even if I did get caught, the agency would have something to go by. 15 minutes later, I heard footsteps coming towards the door. I rushed toward the stairs immediately, but Justin was faster. He grabbed my hands from behind and covered my mouth so I couldn't make any noise. He dragged me towards the basement and pushed me towards a chair. Without giving me a chance to recover my breath, he pulled off my wig. He gave me a sinister laugh. "I should have known. It's you." "But you didn't," I mocked. "Not until your boss started suspecting me." "Shut up. If he finds out that I let an enemy stay at my house for so long, I'll go down with you," he said. "It would be better if I just end you here and then go to—" Before he could finish his sentence, a shadow loomed over him and was knocked over by a punch. I gaped as Justin collapsed to the ground and Jody came into sight. She tied Justin to a chair and then turned to me. "Ethan, are you okay?" she asked, rushing to my side. "I was trying to call you, but you didn't pick up, so I figured something was wrong." "Thanks for rescuing me," I said. "I should be ashamed. I had one job, and I couldn't even—" "Oh, please," Jody intervened. "One moment of weakness can't define everything. I've seen your skills firsthand. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Got it?" I glanced at her in shock. "Are you actually praising me right now?" Never thought I would see this day. Why? She smiled. I like you, and I can't tolerate it when you underestimate yourself. I've made stupider mistakes than these, and yet you put up with me without a word of complaining. The least I can do is return the favor. Wait, did I hear that right? Did she just say she liked me? I know this isn't the time for this, but I like you too, I confessed. In fact, I've been dreading telling you this because I thought you had no feelings for me. Jody hugged me. I've had feelings for you ever since we first got caught. You know, if I was in your place and someone made that kind of mistake, I would have totally doubted them and refused to work too. But you trusted me. I laughed. Yeah, well, I already doubted you once, and that didn't end well. We heard Justin groaning. He was slowly regaining consciousness. Jody and I decided to get out of there, but when we turned around, Samuel showed up in front of us. I knew something was wrong when Justin was taking so long to get back, he started. The maid betrayed him after all. Who was he even talking to? I glanced behind him to see that he'd brought a lot of men for backup. Attacking him definitely wasn't a good idea. We were easily outnumbered. Justin was always an idiot, Samuel continued, then looked up to meet my eyes. But, I must say, I'm quite impressed by the two of you. You were able to come this far, which means you're quite capable. Whatever you're planning is useless, I said, and keeping us here isn't going to help you either. We will see about that. He smirked and ordered his men to bring us upstairs. Jody and I put up a fight, but, as I said, we were very outnumbered. And those men were all armed. Samuel made us sit in the living room. Jody glanced at me in question. What the hell is going on? Why are we here while Justin is in the basement? She whispered. I shrugged. Let's wait and see. You were really confident that my plans are going to fail, Samuel said, taking a seat beside me. Well, the clock is about to strike 12 in just a few minutes. The first phase of the plan will start then. What do you mean? It was supposed to happen in the evening, I said. Of course, but that's the final phase, he smiled. So what's the first phase? Jody asked hesitantly. You will hear it on the news soon enough, Samuel replied as he switched on the TV. All the machineries in the hospitals are about to fail. I thought that was going to happen after the blackout. Did he change his plans? I was so confused at that moment. He was watching the TV excitedly, saying the news could come on at any time now. But an hour passed, and the reporters kept talking about some celebrity breakup. And then commercials started running. Jody snorted. Where's your epic first phase machinery fail thing? She mocked. Looks like the only thing that failed is your plan, I added. Jody started laughing, and Samuel pinned us with the deadliest glare. He asked his men to make some calls. While they were at it, there were loud banging noises. And the next thing I know, a lot of men from my agency were barging inside the house. They caught Samuel and his team within minutes and rescued Jody and I. I was shocked to find my boss waiting for me outside the house. When I walked up to him, he gave me an apologetic look. Were we too late? He asked. The two of you aren't injured, are you? We're fine, I replied. But what happened to Samuel's plan? Were you able to stop everything on time? He nodded. Yes, all thanks to you. If you're so thankful, you could have at least let us know that you'd support us, Jody retorted. Even a simple text would have been helpful, you know? What kind of boss are you? We went against your orders, and you didn't even bat an eye. The boss was shocked for a second, as if he couldn't comprehend that Jody was actually scolding him. Then he cleared his throat. Yeah, well, sorry about that. You were doing a good job with or without support. But, Jody, what are you still doing here? It's time for you to return. I've booked your tickets. Jody frowned. Why would you do that? It's up to me whether I want to return or not. Yeah, it is. But I thought you hated Ethan and wanted to get this over as soon as possible, the boss asked in confusion. Yeah, well, things have changed. She smiled, grabbing my hand. I'm going to stay with Ethan. But you, the boss stuttered as he took in the scene in front of him. I was just enjoying his reactions silently. Why are you so shocked? Jody asked. Ethan and I are married. And, I guess I should thank you for that. It was your stupid idea. But, whatever. I'll forgive you now. Because everything came to a happy ending. I couldn't agree more. What started out as a dangerous mission ended smoothly, with Jody and I falling in love with each other. It's easy enough for you to guess what happened after that. Jody and I started enjoying a happy marital life, and we no longer hated the idea of teaming up for missions.